I'm Jon Sponheim, and this is Countdown to Economic Collapse. So, Christmas is upon us. The White House is decorating at a huge cost. Actually, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to make a big deal about that. You know, this is Barack and Michelle's day. They want to enjoy their money. But the problem is it's our money, and they're spending it at a rapid rate. We've talked about 3 times as much spending than Bush. We've talked about an alarming deficit that's just growing, reaching the debt ceiling soon. When are we going to start thinking about cutting costs in a big way? Well, they just passed an $858 billion plan to spend yet more money with extension of unemployment benefits, which will help about 13 million people, and I'm sure will buy Barack Obama a lot of votes in 2012. And of course, they're going to get tax breaks to the rich, which they really don't need to do because we need that money to pay back the debt. So all of this is coming down in America, and we are seeing countries like Greece and Portugal struggle. Greece just tried to cut their pension funds by as little as 6%, and they had riots in the street. God knows what would happen if we told the USPS workers that they weren't going to get their retirement funds. Could you imagine them walking off the job and leaving the post office without anybody to handle mail? Well, that could happen, and it could happen sooner than later. Look at this scenario. The small banks right now are trying to save money, not give money away. The reason being, there's not a lot of money out there with people like you and I putting their money in the banks. First of all, 95% of the wealth is owned by 5% of the population. So there's just a little bit of money that is circulating among the 5% of the population that's probably going to go to the bank. Because you know that the big people, the big money, they're not going to go put their money in a bank account that gets 0.035% interest. They're going to go invest in foreign investments, for instance, or treasury bonds, or anything other than some simple bank account at a local bank. So what are the banks running on, these small banks? Well, they're basically floating, and they're borrowing money just to stay in business. So the potential for the small banks to continue closing down across the country is pretty great. In fact, they're on track to beat last year's record for bank foreclosures. So we're looking at a serious problem that is pretty much reaching a pinnacle in America. What are we going to do to stop this? How are we going to prevent this? We could essentially do a pension restructuring plan that would get these incredible pensions that are robbing state budgets around the country down in the amount of money that they pay out to people, pensioners. That's a possibility, and something like that would truly give a moment reprieve to the states that are currently facing bankruptcy. They're looking at possibly $1 trillion over the next 10 years in pension fees, and that's what's truly draining our budget, just like in Greece. So as Greece and Portugal begin to tumble, the euro is stretched very thin, and many people are thinking that some of these countries involved in the euro are going to go back to their original currency. Well, that could happen, and the euro may take a huge tank and ultimately completely fragment. If that happens, it will send shockwaves through the entire Asian and the US markets. So what we're seeing ultimately is a wait-and-see pattern with Barack Obama. The longer he waits, the more we see things collapse around us. And the more he spends, the more likely we are going to go bankrupt as a nation. Well, actually, technically, we are bankrupt as a nation. In 1933, they passed the Necessity Act, which put us into bankruptcy. So we're still in bankruptcy. This week, we're going to find out if MasterCard and Visa take an even bigger stock loss when news of the interchange rates going down to 12 cents per transaction because of the Dodd bill took about a 12% drop in stock value. We'll see what happens this week. But when the credit card companies go, the veritable lifeblood of the small banks is going to dry up, which could lead to a banking problem. So stay tuned, we'll find out more. I'm Jon Sponheim, and this is America's Third Party, and we are truly trying to change things in a way that will get our nation back to a solvent currency, get rid of the Fed, and get solid backing to the US dollar.
Check us out at americasthirdparty.com.